Hello and welcome to Bad Review. Today we're going to look at first issue special, issue 1. This is from 1975, put out by DC Comics, of course, as you can see. And it's introducing Atlas. This was written, edited, and drawn by Jack Kirby. Since Kirby's work, I think, was slipping a little bit in the 70s, before it really got bad in the 80s. I have mixed feelings about this. I'm not a huge Jack Kirby fan to begin with, so take that for what it is. But this is an okay issue. I've seen a lot worse from his mid 70s stuff, but unfortunately the story suffers. The cover art's really cool. It's got an action scene. It got a lot going on. Unfortunately, you really don't see that imagery in the book. There is some fighting, but it's sort of a convoluted storyline. Like they're building up to something and the payoff just isn't there. Now, if you've ever seen the movie Conan the Barbarian, you've pretty much read this. Mainly it's about a guy named Atlas whose family was killed. His father was killed, and most of his tribe was killed, and his mother was taken captive by this guy that looks sort of vaguely lizard-like and has a serpent on his helmet. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? I kept looking for him to say that the helmet had a sun and a moon coming together, but yeah, it just the art wasn't really quite Kirby's best. It's honestly a little trite, I think, and they try and go into this thing about people that live in people of the crystal, and that was just kind of this weird thing that the kid's tribe was supposed to be, and they never really explain how he's like superhumanly strong. He just sort of is. Yeah, it's very convoluted, and it likes to jump back and forth. So the very beginning of the story is actually the end of the story, and it leaves you on a cliffhanger, but it's never resolved because it's a one-shot storyline. And you were supposed to write in and say, hey, we want to read more of this guy, but it never really happened. Issue 2 picks up with a totally different storyline with totally different people. So yeah, it's definitely not an issue I would recommend per se, unless you're a Kirby completionist or you're just looking for some throwaway characters that were rarely ever used. I don't recall ever actually seeing Atlas after this. I think he did pop up in some places, but I've never actually read them. Not that I can remember anyway. So he's kind of one of those Kirby characters that just kind of vanished into the ether, and just nothing ever came of him. And they have a lot of stuff like that in DC's catalog, that where they were trying out new stuff, and all companies do. But this one was a little bit of a waste of time, in my opinion. It's interesting that they were doing an entire series of like one-shot adventures, but not having a resolution really hurt the story. I think it was overall kind of a goofy Conan knockoff, and his outfit is just blatantly ridiculous. He wears a hood with no shirt. I don't understand that at all. And he has some sort of like pseudo utility belt thing that doesn't seem to serve a function. But yeah, overall, this one's a miss for me. I didn't care for it. I thought the story was overly used, bland, predictable, even for the 70s. And the fact that it's almost complete ripoff of Conan really didn't help. I know the movie came later, but I'm pretty sure the origin story is the same in the books, and the comics of the time. So yeah, it's a pretty uninspired storyline. The character doesn't seem all that original. You're never really explained how he got his powers. Was he born that way? Whatever. There's none of that. So yeah, I'm gonna have to say this one's definitely a miss for me. It's like a lot of the 70s DC stuff. It's either really fun or it's really stupid. And I would have to go with this one being kind of dumb. So, yeah, that's going to do it for this one. That's first issue special, introducing Atlas. It's issue 1. We're going to look at the other issues in this series, so be sure to check back for those. And there were only 13 issues in this series, so they did introduce some interesting stuff and have some good characters. But That'll do it for this one. Thanks for listening. We hope to see you on the next one.